the 26th of February. I'm Kimberly Perot, and welcome to Wasatch Weekends. On today's show, we are talking to Francesca Callo. Julio had a conversation about up-and-comers in the film business, and then we're in the kitchen again to make crispy carrots to go with yesterday's tzatziki dip. But before we jump into all of that, I'm sure you want to know this Monday morning edition of the weather. Let's take a look. The film business is certainly grueling when you're trying to get into it, but it's always encouraging to get advice from those that are already in the industry. Julio chatted with Francesca Callo for anybody who's interested in becoming an actor or someone behind the camera. Let's take a look at that conversation.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Now I'm so excited to introduce to you our next guest, whom you might have seen in films such as Ocean's 8, the TV show Mayor of Easttown, or you might have heard her voice on Disney XD, Cartoon Network, or the popular video game Wasteland 3. Joining us today, we have bi-coastal actor, performance capture, voice actress, and ADR director, Francesca Callo. Francesca, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. You have such impressive work. You are an actress, performance capture, you're a director, you do voiceover, you've done work with anime and video games. So I'm just so excited to talk to you about a little bit of everything that you do and what you've got going on. But I'd like to start, Francesca, kind of from the very beginning, because I know that you grew up kind of in film and television sets with your parents. So tell me kind of like about that experience and how that shaped your career, or if that sparked something in you from a young age.
Yeah, I think because both my parents are in the industry. My dad is a director, producer, and writer, and my mom is a production coordinator. And so when I was younger and little, my playground was their sets.
Yeah.
So they would take me on sets all the time. Like the famous story was my mom was working on Batman Forever.
Wow.
And they arranged for me to meet and go on the set, and Val Kilmer was in full Batman costume.
Wow.
I met him and he looked at me and he was like, "Hi, I'm Batman." So it really did spark an interest in me because I grew up around it. I love all aspects of the industry, which is why I do so much in it.
Yeah.
And it's just a great industry to be in, hard, and I saw the struggles that came with it as well.
Right.
And I think that kind of shaped me too, even though knowing that there were struggles along, I still wanted to pursue it and was happy to do that. So it was a great experience growing up on sets.
Yeah, no, that sounds like quite a unique childhood and quite a unique playground, you know, to be on sets of different films and to kind of be around that environment from a very young age. Now, I know, Francesca, that you also kind of started studying different types of performing arts from a very young age. Kind of tell me a little bit about that process of your formation as a performer.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was very, very shy, and my dad and mom noticed it, so they threw me into acting classes when I was about 7. So I studied at the Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York with some amazing teachers who kind of brought me out of my shell, and then I kept kind of pursuing acting through theater as a medium first. So I studied with the Moscow Art Theater, and the Powerhouse Theater, which is in collaboration with New York Stage and Film. So they do a lot of new works and stuff like that. And I just kind of kept pursuing it in theater. And then theater is a great background in general to have as an actor. So I moved from theater into film and television, and then finally into voiceover and performance capture as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you know that you have experience in all sorts of different mediums, different types of performing arts, and that you've done this from a very young age. I think that's quite impressive that you've been in this for a while. You kind of know the ins and outs of the game. And I want to talk about specifically, obviously you mentioned, you started kind of doing theater, then you transitioned into film and TV, then you're kind of doing more voiceover and stuff. But also I think something that's really interesting is that you do a lot of work around anime and video games. Kind of, how did you get into that, and how has that been for you?
Yeah. So when I was younger, anime was like my Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
So I would watch like Pokemon, and they had this program called Toonami that was on like after school program where they just showed a bunch of different anime. So I grew up kind of watching anime, and I was always interested in it and that kind of culture. And I also played a lot of video games like Zelda, The Ocarina of Time, I think was my first video game with Star Fox on the Nintendo 64. So I was always interested in that world, but I didn't realize that you could actually pursue it as an actor or in that world. And then a friend from college actually introduced me to my voiceover mentor and a great friend named Erica Schroeder, who plays like Eevee and Pokemon and does like a bunch of different animes and cartoons and stuff like that. So I started studying with her, and she got me into the studios in New York. And then, funnily enough, during the pandemic, it was actually a crazy time to be a voice actor because everyone was working from home.
Yeah.
So all these doors kind of opened worldwide. So I started working in video games and cartoons in LA and in London and across the world, essentially, and entered into that realm during the pandemic, which was a crazy time to be grateful for work and all that, but I was. Yeah. And then I entered into performance capture, which is a big part of the video game world right now. And it's great. It's a wonderful experience because especially performance capture in video games, it's like a culmination of all the work of theater, of film, and of voiceover, just putting everything together and working with your pure imagination. And I love it. Yeah. It's a wonderful place.
I love that you mentioned performance capture because I actually wanted to ask you about that and kind of tell us what it is and how do you think it kind of differs from regular acting? I think you kind of touched on it. It kind of encompasses all of different elements, but kind of tell me a little bit about performance capture.
Yeah. So performance and motion capture, I think the most famous examples of it are like Andy Serkis as Gollum in Lord of the Rings or the Planet of the Apes movie or Avatar.
Yes.
But essentially, you're in like this suit that's like looks like pajamas essentially, and has like little balls on it.
Yeah.
And what's great is that it's basically you have cameras 360 and then you have a camera kind of in your face, so they're capturing all your face motions as well as your body movements.
Yeah.
And in terms of the differences of acting, in particular performing, it's almost like theater in the round because your audience is essentially everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're capturing like the slightest movements. So it's also like you have to be a little bigger than film, but smaller than theater. And then you're also like using your voice as well to create the voice of the character. But what I find fascinating is that it's also just pure imagination because you don't have costumes, you don't really have sets, and for video games, like your props could just be like a Nerf gun,
right,
or just like a rubber like pool noodle or something like that, and you have to use it as like a means, like use it as a sword or something.
Yeah.
So you don't have the protection of theater or film where you can use your costume or your set to kind of morph your character. It kind of is just pure acting at its finest.
Yep.
And pure imagination because the sets are just like cardboard boxes or just like ramps. They're not actually built into anything, and you just have to create that world for yourself. And that's both the challenging part of it and the most fascinating part of it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because you're really just utilizing all your tools and utilizing your imagination to the fullest to create these worlds.
I love that. I love, imagination, creativity, and being able to create worlds that are fantastic through the power of technology and performance capture. I think we can do so much nowadays. So I find it fascinating that you were able to kind of delve into that world as well and do such amazing things through your work. Now, Francesca, I want to conclude by asking you, there's a lot of aspiring actors, a lot of young talent. What would you say to those people out there who want to break into the industry? One piece of advice or something you would tell for aspiring actors?
Yeah, well, take acting classes, definitely. Even for things like voiceover, it's acting is acting is acting, it's voice acting. So you definitely need to continue your studies. And also, I know it's probably said, but it really is a marathon, not a sprint. That there will always be ebbs and flows and doubts, and those will creep in, but you got to keep going. Denzel Washington said it's just, you fall 7 times and pick yourself up 8 times. And that's the only means of moving forward. So just keep going. My mentor always said, dare to fail gloriously, which I love.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Absolutely. Dare to fail gloriously. Francesca, thank you so much for joining us today. I loved hearing a little bit about all the work that you do and all the talents that you were able to share with us today. So I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
It's always fun to add a little bit of zhuzh to your carrots when you are baking them in the oven. Kevin and I made a crispy Parmesan carrot to go with the tzatziki dip that we showed you how to make yesterday. Let's jump into the kitchen. Guess where we are? In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, once again.
In the kitchen, once again.
It's like from yesterday, kind of a replay. Deja vu.
I know, is that happening or what?
Deja carrot and tzatziki.
It's true. We made a delicious tzatziki sauce yesterday, but this makes a great dip for what we are about to show you. And, I love a good chips and dip, but I usually like the chips just to taste the dip. But this one is a great way. We're going to do carrots, which is a little bit
very tasty,
very
and it's going to go good with the tzatziki sauce.
It really is. It's a little bit more savory. So we're doing a crispy Parmesan carrot.
Okay.
Very easy. It should take you about 5 minutes in total to make once everything has been prepped. But it's very simple. You have 5 different spices. So we've got onion powder, garlic powder. We've got some organic chili powder. We've got paprika and then Italian herb seasoning, as well as olive oil, because you always need something to coat everything in.
Yeah.
And then from there, we have some Parmesan and carrots, and that is it. It's so simple.
Well, let me start grating some Parmesan and getting the carrots prepped.
Absolutely. So you want to separate your Parmesan. If you're doing about a pound of carrots, which we're going to do a little bit less than that today just to demonstrate, but you need about a cup of Parmesan cheese. 1/4 of that will be used in our spice and olive oil mixture, and then the other 3/4 of it we'll be using to coat the bottom of our carrots. So it's going to be a fun one.
It is going to be a fun. We talked yesterday about some fun snacks and dips for the big game that may be coming up.
Yep, or entertaining.
Or entertaining, having people over, because now's the time. If you live in the valley, you've got a lot of visitors this time of year.
That is the truth. I have a Google Calendar that I share with my friends and family on who can come visit. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So we need about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'll go ahead and measure that out here. We're just pouring that in here. We do have some salt, but the salt is really just to taste, so it's up to you on your flavoring. So I've got my olive oil already mixed in here. And then each of the spices are equal parts. You want a heaping 1/4 or half a teaspoon of the spices. So we've got our half a teaspoon here. I'm going to not pour it, but we're going to
heaping.
Heaping, It does not have to be perfectly flat and perfectly flush, but it's really just to kind of measure, but it's up to you on what kind of flavors you like. So we're going to go ahead and start with our garlic powder, and I'm a big fan of garlic powder. I use it in almost everything that I make.
Fresh garlic. We had fresh garlic out yesterday.
We had fresh garlic out yesterday.
The aroma
now we're
was
going to add
amazing.
the onion powder. Parmesan looks great, Kevin.
Oh,
it looks
thank
so
you.
good. And then you're going to go ahead and get those carrots sliced. So I'm adding in the onion powder now. I'll just put these aside here. And then the chili powder, so just about the same. So garlic powder, onion powder. You can smell just the blending of the spices. And now we're adding in this chili powder, looking great. You can just see all the spices there. Paprika is up next.
You got a party in that olive oil. Look at that.
It's a party, lots of different colors. You've got the different shades, the red from the chili powder and more of the auburn from the paprika. I'd like to say, if I had a spice that defined me, it would be paprika. Some people say ginger, but I'm not quite that redheaded. You know?
A little salty, a little salty.
Little salty. So we're gonna go ahead and add in, this is my favorite part, and I think kind of a secret ingredient, Italian herb seasoning. So nice heaping teaspoon there. We've got all of the herbs mixed in.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna throw in, we're gonna do a little bit about a fourth of a cup of Parmesan to mix that all in together. Whoops.
Okay.
As I'm knocking
Put that
things
anywhere.
over
Just
here.
put that there.
We'll just,
I get it.
Yep.
I got that one.
So you just kind of sprinkle that in there if you want
Okay.
to do. Looks great to me.
How's that?
It looks perfect.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and just stir up this mix. And you can see there, it's kind of adding that. And I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil into it, just because I like to lightly coat mine. I don't need it to be fully coated in this.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're adding
Light
that,
coat.
lightly coating it. So there we go. So there is the coating of
That
our
smells
carrots.
amazing, by the way.
It really does.
Yeah.
You never would have thought to mix the paprika, the onion powder, the garlic powder. So then what we're gonna do is take the carrots and we're gonna throw them in here and just drudge them around.
Throw them, or can I just lay them in there?
You know, you can, you want a basketball shoe?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. So we're gonna do that. And then what we're gonna do here is we're actually going, or we can actually do it on our plate since we already have Parmesan on the plate.
Yeah.
But you're gonna spread it out and we're gonna actually just dip the bottom of these carrots in onto the plate.
Okay.
So that they have a nice little
We'll
coating
do it
on
there,
the
and then
bottom.
we'll bake in this one.
And
How
then
about
we'll
that?
bake. There we
How's
go.
that sound? So
Sounds good to
spread
me.
that
So
out.
you got that nice and spread out and just kind of dredge these and
Okay.
see where they go.
Oh, look at that.
You know, it's different. You would have not thought about it, but there's something about the sweetness of a baked carrot, you know, and it kind of makes it a little bit softer, and the crispiness of the Parmesan when you pull it out of the oven. So, looks pretty good to me. So what we're going to do, you're going to take the flat side down. So cut what you did, Kevin, if you want to explain how you cut these.
I cut them lengthwise.
Okay.
That's a very technical term.
Lengthwise.
Culinary. I learned that in culinary school.
You know,
So
we're professionally trained here. We really are.
you just take the ends off.
Yeah, you just take the ends off.
And you're very careful because they are round, so you got to get that flat spot on it, and you just cut it lengthwise.
And that's it.
Okay.
So these are medium-sized carrots, and that's the best way to do it. You can do it either, I would say this is a great length, you know, it's a great snackable size, and looks good to me. So you just,
do you put it down?
you just put it Parmesan cheese side down.
Okay.
That is it.
Look at that.
And then you just keep on dipping, and
I'm a fast learner. I'm going places.
you really are. You know, I think you have a hidden skill.
I
and
do.
You don't tell anybody about
Don't tell
your
anybody.
kitchen expertise.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just dip it just like that. And you can get it as coated as you want to or as not. I like to lightly coat the carrots in the mixture here and then try to get as much Parmesan on the bottom as possible, because there's a little bit of a, once they're baked, a juxtaposition of soft and sweet to the salty and crispy Parmesan on the bottom. It's quite delicious.
It smells incredible.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to try
You
this.
are an expert.
Yeah, I know. Got this. I've
in
got
the
it.
dredging and
I've
the
got
dipping,
this.
Kevin. I'm very impressed.
Very focused right now.
You are. And you know what? Another
Hard
fun
for me
thing.
to talk and dredge.
Well, then I'll keep talking. We'll just make it easy for you. So, and one of the things that I love about this recipe, now carrots to me, I think I like the, as I mentioned, the contrast of the sweetness of the carrot and the saltiness of the Parmesan, but you can do this with any other kind of vegetable that you really want to. You can do it with a zucchini if you want. It would just cook a little bit less time in the oven, but typically you want your oven to be heated to 425.
Okay.
And then once it is preheated, you pop these in the oven and they should cook for about 20 to 25 minutes, but it's really up to you on your desired crispiness and how soft you want the carrots to be.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some that have been baking,
We do.
so I'm going to pull those out.
Now we went a little bit mini on this next round, and you know I like them very crispy, so we made these a bit crispy. And you know we did make a delicious tzatziki dip yesterday. Okay, oh,
Very
looks
hot.
good. So you can tell they are just nice and crispy. I'm gonna go ahead and try it. Whew, Toasty.
Hot.
It is very hot.
I told you.
Here we go. A little bit too hot for my fingers, but I'm going to try it out here. And I'm just going to dip it into this tzatziki sauce.
How's it? Yeah,
great.
that facial expression says it all. Yummy.
Definitely one of my favorites, and especially toasty on the fingers there. But it's a great alternative to chips or any sort of French fry. You're not frying it, but it gives you the crispiness of a French fry. It's quite delicious.
That's perfect.
Yeah, great little snack, and your friends will think you're very fancy if you're making this at home. So these are crispy Parmesan carrots with a tzatziki sauce dip. Quite delicious.
Quite delicious and healthy.
And healthy. We nailed it in the kitchen. So if you want the recipe, make sure you reach out to us on our social media, and we'd be happy to share it, but we'll be right back after this. Crispy carrots and acting and films. Oh my, it has been such a fun Monday morning edition of Wasatch Weekends. I'm Kimberly Perot, and I'll see you next time.